Welcome to the Green Table Talk, a series focused on the need to green the education curriculum in order to prepare the next generation for the regional transition to a sustainable energy future. During 2 one-hour sessions, we'll discuss current initiatives aimed at providing sustainable knowledge, skills, values, and practices in secondary and tertiary classrooms. For the past 3 years, the Caribbean Examinations Council has been hard at work, updating and improving teaching materials and methods, with the aim of preparing students for the world of work within this changing landscape. These efforts began in 2018 with the GIZ-funded Renewable Energy and Energy Efficiency Technical Assistance Program, which provided support for the development of a digital toolkit for the new Green Engineering syllabus, as well as teacher training and a concept paper supporting the move to green the CXC curriculum. Building on this foundation, the Technical Assistance Program for Sustainable Energy in the Caribbean facilitated a partnership between the Caribbean Examinations Council and the University of Guyana in 2020. This sparked a collaborative exercise involving educators from across the region who worked together to plan, design, develop, and implement the upgrade program. Through a winter boot camp and 25 sensitization workshops hosted in Antigua, Barbuda, Barbados, Guyana, Jamaica, and Trinidad and Tobago, CARICOM educators have been prepped to deliver and assess CAPE Green Engineering subject materials. They're also ready to integrate the new greening concepts into 10 CAPE and CSEC subjects. Now, we're ready to talk with you about what all of this means for the region and for your future. We begin with an orientation session where we'll give you a run-through of the day's activities. Joining our moderator Azelle Francis from the CARICOM Energy Unit for this session will be Dr. Devon Gardner, head of the CARICOM Secretariat's Energy Unit, Dr. Nebert Blair, TAPSEC Capacity Building Advisor, and Miss Sherry-Ann Farquharson, Knowledge Management and Capacity Development Expert at the CCRE. Let's get into the Green Table Talk.
Welcome, and thank you for joining us at the Green Table. I am Azelle Francis, CARICOM Energy Policy Associate and a doctoral scholar at the Georgia Institute of Technology. With a Bachelor's of Science in Mechanical Engineering and a Master of Science in Applied Engineering, I consider myself to be a connector, someone who's able to bridge the gaps between the technical, socioeconomic, and policy sides of energy. Allow me to say, welcome. So behind every great series is a team. Without the combined efforts and support of multiple institutions who collaborated with the TAPSEC program, this event would not have been possible. So please allow me to say a sincere thank you to our partners, the CARICOM Energy Unit, the Caribbean Examination Council, the University of Guyana. Mainstreaming greening learning concepts in the educational syllabus of the Caribbean Examinations Council is a CARICOM and CXC project supported by TAPSEC and executed by the University of Guyana. So to kick us off this morning, we warmly welcome Dr. Devon Gardner. Dr. Gardner has been the program manager for energy and head of the Energy Unit at the CARICOM Secretariat since September 2014. In this role, Dr. Gardner has oversight of the energy program, which is tasked with the identification of common policies and strategies for transforming CARICOM's energy sector. This new energy program promotes a transition to energy systems that favor sustainable and clean energy production, as well as efficient delivery and use. This provides the legal certainty for investors and improves predictability in price and supply for users. Dr. Gardner has published over 50 peer-reviewed articles, as well as numerous reports and studies, and received his Doctor of Philosophy in Chemical Physics with a specialization in numerical analysis from the University of West Indies, Mona campus in 2001. Welcome, Dr. Gardner.
Thank you very much, Ms. Francis, and very good to be here on the Green Table Talk series. First of all, I view myself as an academician, as a teacher, if you want to call it that even. So I'm always very pleased when I have an audience with students, regardless of what age group and what segment of the education system they are in. So ladies and gentlemen, good morning, pleasant good morning, and welcome to the GTT series, and more so to CARICOM Energy Month. We are in the last stretch of CARICOM Energy Month. We are closing this week of CARICOM Energy Month with this particular activity, and next week, of course, would go into the final week of the Energy Month. It is with great pleasure that I acknowledge in this particular event the Caribbean Examination Council. Now, if I could just take a step back to kind of frame the whole program of approach that we have been taking with the Caribbean Examination Council in greening the syllabus, it would start with the following. There is common understanding that the energy sector as we know it has evolved significantly from what it was a decade or two ago. And it is continuing to evolve and will evolve even more over the decade or two to come. But that means that what we once knew as a small pool of technical specialists who were pretty much responsible for the building of power plants, the generation of power, and the delivery of power to end users. And of course, on the fuel side, those who would have refined fossil fuels, pushed it into the distribution networks and delivered them to the pumps from where they are used, have shifted and changed significantly to something that is far more democratic, something that is far more open and requires a much broader skill sets than what we were used to in the past. We are now looking at energy systems that are facilitating two-way flow of electricity between customer premises and the electric grid. If we are looking at energy systems that are dependent on wind, we are looking at energy systems that are dependent on sun, we are looking at energy systems that are dependent on river, we are looking at energy systems that are dependent even on garbage, what we once called municipal solid waste or garbage dumps, if we want to put it that way, if we explain it so simply. We are looking at energy systems that require behavioral practices. We are looking at energy system that allows us to do a lot more in terms of how we choose to access and deliver and use energy. And so in that regard, it requires a much broader set of skills. It requires a lot more environmentalists being involved. It requires natural scientists being involved. It requires those who are supporting economics being involved, because we have to understand all the economics. We need a lot more on the business side to work out some of the financing arrangements, because everything is not as centralized anymore. The democratization truly requires a much broader skill set. And what that means is it opens up opportunities for all kinds of persons to participate. It's really the true democratization of energy that we have seen. It's more about just the use of energy, but rather the participation of skilled persons in the sector. That is really where the democratization rests most. And so in that regard, we thought it was important that we begin very early to channel persons into the possible energy careers that they could have. Because in the past, there was a very clear pathway of how you enter the energy sector. You would simply study the sciences in school, and then you would enter engineering in the university. And once you are finished engineering and you're looking for engineering jobs, the electricity sector or the refinery sector became the places where you would go, and then you would have been at the crux of the energy sector by working in an electric company or in a refinery. Nowadays, it is far more than just that. There are persons out there who are now doing environmental and social impact assessments on wind projects and solar projects. People are doing wind assessments and all these kind of things. People who are now looking at energy efficiency opportunities. People are now looking at consumer behavior patterns. People are looking at trying to finance consumer-based projects and all of these kind of things. And people are trying to communicate the importance of solar, wind, and even energy efficiency to consumers and to those who are also participating at different ends of the value chain. And being able to do all of that means that we have to transform and change the way in which we educate and bring our talent pool into the energy sector. And we believe that this requires us to begin at the very base. The very base. Obviously, the primary school would be considered the base, but we thought that the natural place to start would be with the secondary school system, where there is a very, very strongly structured regional cooperation arrangement that is guided and led by the CXC, the Caribbean Examination Council. If there was ever a CARICOM-wide success that one could point to, it would be CXC. For the persons like Paulette, you might not remember as well, you're too young. But when Paulette comes on, and people like Paulette and myself who were, going to school in the 80s, we remember the days when we would have to make a decision between whether to do CXC examinations or GC Cambridge O-level examinations, because CXC was still being looked at as something that was emerging. And the choice of being able to do CXCs when you're in sixth form did not exist then. So we have seen where that morphing of CXC into the choice of secondary evaluation and secondary curriculum for students have made quantum leaps over the last 3 decades, and we have therefore seen CXC as the natural partner with whom to work in building out the kind of curricula, building out the kind of assessment of that curricula that would allow for our students at secondary level to be able to understand the principles and the practices and the content that is necessary for them to determine their path into the energy sector in the future. The CARICOM Secretariat functions through functional cooperation. It's a principle of functional cooperation. We leverage the goodwill of our donor colleagues and friends from the developed countries. We work with them to see where there are opportunities for overseas development assistance. And when we pull together through our, what we call our convening power, those regional and international implementation partners who could assist us in delivering end products to support those goals that we want to achieve. And this is a principle of that kind of partnership, where we were able to, in the beginning, in 2018, through the BMZ, which is the German Ministry of Economic Cooperation, we were able to access resources and bring those resources through the GIZ into the region for us to work together, Secretariat, CXC, and GIZ, to implement the first phase of the project that supported green engineering. And now, a couple of years later, we were able to access funding again through the European Union and the BMZ again to work with the GIZ and the CCRI now, which is the Caribbean Center for Renewable Energy and Energy Efficiency, as well as the University of Guyana, which is part of our emerging regional universities network, which constitutes the regional University of the West Indies, as well as national universities in CARICOM, and to see how we could build out that kind of what we would call percolation of sustainable energy principles and practices throughout the CXC curricula as best as is possible. We haven't completed the task. We have done quite a bit, but we haven't completed the task, and you'll hear some of what has been done. And this is going to be something that we'll continually do for as long as it takes for us to achieve the kind of capacity that is necessary for the transformation of our energy systems in the region, from systems that are dependent on fossil fuel, which contributes up to 88% of the source, constitutes 88% of the source for our energy services, until we get to the stage where we are completely secure in our energy futures that allows us to be able to build resilient systems, build resilient communities. So ladies and gentlemen, I wish you success in today's Green Talk. series, and I have no doubt that you will leave with the understanding that there are going to be options and opportunities for you to become energy experts in your own right, whether it is as a lawyer serving the sector, or an economist, or an engineer, or just simply an energy expert who are doing analyses in the area. You have seen people like Azel and I who have two different pathways. I was a pure scientist, but still there is never no such thing as just a scientist. I'm a pure scientist who came through chemistry, physics, mathematics, that was it. And, and Azel came through engineering and then eventually went into the natural sciences and now into a more social science oriented relation. And I've seen these kind of transitions happen all the time. I've seen lots of lawyers, lots of communications experts, and we will find that increasingly the energy sector will become all embracing and all encompassing to all skill sets that desire to support the transition pathway that we are focused on. So thank you very much for taking time out to listen to me, and I look forward to hearing about the success of today.
Thank you, Dr. Gardner, for setting the stage and truly highlighting the critical importance of greening the education system in transforming the region from dependence to resilience. So to present the outline of the Green Table Talk series, allow me to introduce Dr. Niebert Blair. Dr. Blair serves as the Capacity Building Advisor for the 11th European Development Fund Technical Assistance Program for Sustainable Energy in the Caribbean, also known as TAPSEC. Here at this table, we love our acronyms. So at TAPSEC, Dr. Blair coordinates the implementation of the program's information and capacity building component. Dr. Blair supports the regional and international exchange of specific solutions, focusing primarily on the application of innovative technologies, financing models, and regulatory mechanisms to renewable energy and energy efficiency sectors within the CARIFORUM. Dr. Blair also advises on the implementation of the Long Range Energy Alternatives Planning System, or LEAP, Regional Training Program, the CXC Virtual Teacher Training Workshops, the Sustainable Energy Training and Train the Trainer Program, and the Regional Universities Network. She also supports regional institutions such as CrossQ, CARICOM Secretariat, CARILEC, CDB, CDF, and CCRE in implementing the Regional Energy Apprenticeship Program, or REAP. I told you we love our acronyms at the Green Table. So Dr. Blair holds a PhD in mechanical engineering from the University of Canterbury, New Zealand, and an MPhil in industrial systems, manufacture and management, from the University of Cambridge, United Kingdom. Dr. Blair has gained significant experience in power, utility, and manufacturing entities while working on design, implementation, and management, and developing power engineering systems utilizing various energy sources, such as solar, wind, hydro, natural gas, geothermal, and heavy fuel oil. Given this impressive resume, allow me to introduce Dr. Blair. Dr. Blair, you're still on mute.
Thank you. Thank you, Azel, and good morning. Good morning, Dr. Gardner, Dr. Jackson, and Ms. Fackerson from CCRE. And I proceed into outlining the GTT series. The Green Table Talk series will consist of generally 2 episodes, which you will see today, of approximately 1 hour each. During the first episode, entitled Ensuring Sustainability Through Education and CXC Greening in Focus, we will hear from CXC about what should sustainable practices be. What sustainable practices should be included in the 10 CXC subject areas identified. What does the workforce want from CXC? How CXC is working to satisfy our labor market, and how will sustainable development be integrated into the syllabus of the 10 CXC subject areas? Which new activities are included in the syllabus, and how will education strategies help teachers to ensure that the newly developed syllabus prepares students for the coming sustainable development transition? And this session will conclude with a discussion of lessons learned and comments received from participants. The team from CXC and UG will be presenting during episode 1. Episode 2, entitled Equipping Caribbean Youth for a Smart Future, will explore organizing and reorganizing of the educational system to support public and private sector development on regional, national, and community levels, and how we can empower youths to participate in the creation of a regenerative economy based on lessons learned from the COVID-19 natural disasters and unique cultural and financial opportunities that can be available. And we will also hear about the future of the Caribbean from an international and a regional perspective. To do so, we will ask a futurist and the head of the CARICOM of the Caribbean Center for Renewable Energy and Energy Efficiency, how you will spend the time and what we expect to happen today. Today, we will take education stakeholders, policymakers, academics, teachers, school managers, and environmental professionals through the need for greening of the education curriculum. The event, or this GTT event, will shed light on initiatives underway at the secondary level on the green education activities and the provision of sustainable knowledge, skills, values, and practices that will be brought to the classrooms. The event will also show and allow for discussion on career prospects, which will become necessary as we transition to what I consider a greener, maybe even bluer and yellow Caribbean outside the known and obvious. The GTT event series deliverables. This event allows for the visibility of the work that CXC is doing, the work that the University of Guyana is doing in support to CXC, and also raise awareness on these interventions collectively in our region. The objective of the event is to stimulate public discourse and participation through the inclusion of sustainable practices in our secondary education system or curriculum, stimulate energy conservation behaviors and stimulate energy conservation behaviors in our wider community. We expect you to understand from CXC about how the educational system is ensuring that persons completing their examinations are prepared for the transition and what new mechanisms would be implemented to encourage education for sustainability in our region. We expect to see the work completed by the consultants from the University of Guyana towards the greening of some of the CXC syllabus, and for you to become more aware of the transition that is required to see us move from different points of view on how job roles will evolve to address issues for a sustainable future. Thank you, and do stay tuned. Over to you, Azelle.
Thank you, Dr. Blair, for outlining clearly the agenda for today's talk at the Green Table. Next up, we have Ms. Sharianne Farquharson. Ms. Farquharson is the CCRE's knowledge management and capacity building expert. In this role, she fuses her passion for the emergence of a Caribbean powered by a blue and green economy with the opportunity to inspire the next generation of sustainability professionals through initiatives such as the CCRE Internship Program and the development of the CARICOM Energy Knowledge Hub. Ms. Farquharson obtained a Master of Philosophy in Physics from the University of the West Indies Mona campus, having previously received a Bachelor of Science in Electronics and Physics from the same institution. Her research interests include renewable energy, sustainable transportation, and climate change, which has boded well for her during her many research and commercial projects. She's a certified energy manager and has completed training and certification in solar PV installation. Ms. Farquharson is a member of the Jamaica Society of Energy Engineers and the Council for Women in Energy and Environmental Leadership. Ms. Farquharson will highlight the work that we are doing at CARICOM and CCRE for our regional grades 1 through 9 students. She will also launch the Green Kids Corner, which is an initiative for the CARICOM Energy Month 2021. Over to you, Ms. Ferguson.
Thank you very much, Azelle, and good morning, colleagues. The green educational activities for children that are being piloted by CARICOM Energy and with support from TAPSEC and the CICRI is really to foster participation among young Caribbean citizens. We want our youth involved. We need to have them involved also from an early stage so that by the time they get to the point of choosing their careers or even just the way they live their lives, they would have already been sold on the importance of sustainability. So in addition, more directly, we want our students to be introduced to energy vocabulary and energy related issues, engaging them in developing energy projects and allowing them to be able to explain, define energy, differentiate between traditional and renewable energy, and also to identify the different types of energy sources. And importantly, we want them to know how does energy impact them in their everyday lives. And so they can understand how to use energy and how to use energy more responsibly. And so at the CICRI, we have the student circuit. The student circuit is aligned with the vision of the CICRI, which is to create, educate, and facilitate the increased awareness and development of the renewable energy and energy efficiency agenda. This also is in line with Sustainable Development Goal 4, which is quality education. CICRI has developed and designed a specific and targeted space for our youth, which we call the student circuit. And this provides useful information for their development and for the continuity of the renewable energy and energy efficiency transition in the region. The student circuit may be found on the CICRI website, and you can see the URL there, cicri.org/student circuit. And there are resources from grades 1 all the way up to the tertiary level. So for the CAPE, we have available the green engineering syllabus, as well as a summary of what is required and what is expected in conjunction with the CXC. We also have a number of resources, which include the Renewable Energy and Energy Efficiency Dictionary. What does energy have to do with climate change? It's very important to understand that intersection, as well as all you need to know about electric vehicles. And while this is primarily targeted for our students, the information is really useful for anyone with limited technical knowledge. Within the student circuit, there are also a number of games because learning can be fun. And so there are links to several educational games which provide a fun and interactive way to learn about sustainable energy. And these games appeal to a range of ages and interests and include understanding the components of electric circuits. There are simulations to create a clean energy startup business and powering a city with sustainable energy. Now, the CICRI student circuit is continuously being built out. We've had a recent collaboration with the Commonwealth, which will see the inclusion of 2 sustainable energy storybooks, which are suitable for children under 12. And these books will explore the transition through the eyes and experiences of children. The CICRI has also recently signed a memorandum of agreement with the CXC, and one of our first activities will be the development of virtual labs to support the delivery of the greening concepts that you'll hear more about today. And then the Green Kids Corner, which will be hosted on the CARICOM Energy page, energy.caricom.org. And the Green Kids Corner has a number of activities. And I must highlight that they were established by 3 of our very first regional energy apprentices. So they were Catherine Siriam Azelle, Francis, who is hosting us today, and Dana Lawrence, who are attached to CDF, CARICOM, and the CICRI respectively. They've done a very good job of curating resources for our children. And I'll share with you some of what you will see when you go to the Green Kids Corner. There's an energy flip book, and this is targeted for grade 4. And this is an educational tool that can be used by the grade 4 students in a group setting. And it would provide basics on energy, including the definition of energy and the different types, whether renewable or traditional. And also looking at energy use in the home and how to conserve using simple tips. And we know we have to start with our children and they will educate their parents. So that's a part of that strategy. There's also the Energy Jeopardy for grades 5 to 6. Now, this game can be played individually or in groups, and there are several categories, and the topics, generally 6 in each, will have questions similar to the traditional Jeopardy game with varying point values and varying levels of difficulty. And finally, in the Green Kids Corner will be the energy crafts. And these are for our secondary school students, grades 7 to 9. So it will include Let's Get Empowered, which is a solar and wind power mini activity book. This mini activity book provides the students with an introduction to solar energy and wind energy as the two most prevalent non-hydropower renewables within the Caribbean region. And it will give an opportunity to put the theory into practice with 2 easy at-home experiments. The mini home projects will be a solar oven and a paper wind turbine. And with this, we hope to inspire our students to create ingenious systems and devices that will be required for the energy revolution that the Caribbean desperately needs. And with that, I hand back to you, Azelle.
Thank you so much, Ms. Ferguson. Okay, so if these opening presentations didn't get you inspired, ready, and excited to be here with us at the Green Table, I don't know what will. So thank you to our incredible opening speakers, Dr. Gardner, Dr. Blair, and Ms. Ferguson. With this, the Green Table Talk Series 2021 is officially open. Now, to take us into the series, we have a video message from Dr. Eduardo Ali, who is the Pro Registrar and Deputy Chief Executive Officer at the Caribbean Examinations Council. His message will be followed by a spoken word piece and the introduction of episode 1. This Green Table Talk series is guaranteed to keep you in your seats and inspired until we close. Please stay with us to the end, and it's great to have you at our table.
Good morning to all of you from beautiful Jamaica. I am deeply honored to deliver welcome remarks to those of you in attendance today at this Green Education and Career Day in association with the CARICOM community, the Caribbean Center for Renewable Energy and Energy Efficiency, and the Deutsche Gesellschaft für internationale Zusammenarbeit, GIZ. As the recently appointed Pro-Registrar and Deputy CEO of the Caribbean Examinations Council, my role focuses on the positioning of leadership in CXC's efforts as we talk about building a research-driven transformational organization that facilitates the regional education landscape. In this thrust, we aim to develop quality human capital by offering a suite of efficient learning products and services to all our stakeholders and customers. The initiative of integrating green learning concepts into the new and existing CXC syllabuses within the Caribbean Secondary Education Certificate, or CSEC, and the Caribbean Advanced Proficiency Examination, or CAPE, occurred prior to my appointment to CXC. The team in the Syllabus and Curriculum Development Department at CXC successfully collaborated with GIZ and the University of Guyana during a multi-year initiative to review and update our syllabuses, and subsequently shared these new developments with the region's teachers for instruction to students. The new CXC's strategic plan positions CXC as a regional digitized entity that embraces and realizes e-transformation by incrementally shifting from traditional education products and services and delivery systems to to fully online models, modes, processes, products, and services. With our capable teams across the organization and key support from our technicians and our technologists, we are proudly endeavoring to achieve the goal of e-transformation by 2025. Along with the mode of delivery, the strategic plan also focuses on the content that we deliver. Our products will be suitable for learners of varying capacities and capable of assessing varying levels of skills and knowledge via multiple modalities. CXC will bolster its efforts to develop current and relevant learning and assessment products that are representative of regional and international trends, and by leveraging research and international best practices. Just today, I onboarded our new research and development team in our Research, Insights and Product Innovation department. Ladies and gentlemen, Industry 4.0 and now 5.0 place new emphases on global education and training that serves to reposition learning and scientific knowledge and facilitates harmonious relationships between key areas such as automation, artificial intelligence, data science, sustainable development, talent management, and human empowerment in society. The region has no option at this time but to recalibrate education and training. Thus, the regional, societal, and workforce demands in the Caribbean for change or new labor responsive, sustainably conscious, and digitally enabled education products such as CXC's qualifications, its awards, its syllabuses, and our assessments, including the examinations we offer, have indeed received our critical attention. We have reorganized our functions and are remodeling our structures to deliver on providing research-driven educational products that will be accompanied by more efficient education services. We recognize that we need to be consistently responsive to the changing post-secondary education needs and the workforce demands within our regional sectors and industries, whilst preparing citizens who are global in outlook. Our involvement in today's event, and of course our collaboration with GIZ, is a key demonstration of our recognition of the role we play together in the changing educational ecosystem. CXC aims to be the thought leader on emerging trends and issues that impact teaching, learning, and assessment, providing a space for regional institutions to contribute effectively to the conversations that would influence our current practice in teacher training and our innovative interventions in schools. Our strategic plan, ladies and gentlemen, which I would have referred to earlier, will equip us with the tools to be responsive, demonstrating the capacity to remain relevant, resilient, and innovative, and of course being proactive, thereby anticipating and actively addressing societal challenges. CXC's e-transformation strategy is one that the Council has recognized is essential. It is to retain the systems that are in place that would allow for transitions, but also allow us to remain in step with all aspects of development in the region. Of course, all of us know that the COVID-19 pandemic has highlighted the weak links in the chain of educational delivery across the region, especially as it relates to the critical components where science, technology, and human endeavor interlink. No more than ever, we must accept and accelerate our efforts to support our region's learners in the acquisition of digital skills and competencies to enable them to learn and to adapt and to work within digital spaces. Technology is therefore important across the global space and is of course developing at a rapid pace. There is no deficit of innovative platforms, ladies and gentlemen, no equipment, no programs which can positively impact all spheres of life. In every syllabus designed by CXC, there is room for the inclusion of these ideas and concepts which can better prepare our learners for the future ahead. In 1997, CARICOM identified certain traits which they envisioned that the ideal Caribbean person should strive to possess. As it relates to our mission here today of exploring green education concepts and the importance, there are two important traits that CARICOM would have identified that I would like to speak to. The first is, an ideal Caribbean person should be aware of the importance of living in harmony with the environment. And the second is that the ideal Caribbean person should demonstrate multiple literacies, be independent and critically thinking, questioning the beliefs and practices of both the past and present, and of course bringing all of this to bear on innovative applications of science and technology to problem solving and, I dare say, future thinking. UNESCO also focuses on education and sustainability in its fourth Sustainable Development Goal, which speaks to quality education and lifelong learning for all. UNESCO insists that all learners should acquire the knowledge and skills needed to promote sustainable development, which includes development of sustainable lifestyles, all contributing to holistic sustainable development in society. Thus, the attention to sustainable development is a signal to all of us that we cannot focus on innovation and development without taking into consideration the role that the world around us plays and how it is affected by progress. At all levels of our qualifications, as we consider the knowledge, values, and skills that learners must acquire for holistic development, we at CXC must factor in the sustainability concepts that reflect the diverse ecosystems of our Caribbean region. During 2018, CXC received technical assistance support under the Renewable Energy and Energy Efficiency Technical Assistance Program, or RETA, to improve the capacity and awareness of the Caribbean students on sustainable energy issues. As a result of this initiative, it was identified that further capacity support and institutional strengthening were necessary in green education across the CARICOM qualifications framework, especially at the 4 levels that CXC offers in its certifications. This also meant that to ensure that there was effective delivery and new pedagogical methods by CXC, teacher training capacity would have also needed to be strengthened. In a successful collaboration with the University of Guyana, this initiative allowed CXC the opportunity to revise its syllabuses and host teacher training workshops for CAPE Building and Mechanical Drawing, CSEC Technical Drawing, CAPE Agricultural Science, CAPE Environmental Science, CSEC Integrated Science, and CAPE Tourism and CSEC Social Studies. My colleagues, Jodine Williams, Senior Manager with Oversight for Syllabus and Curriculum Development, and Latoya Wedderburn Rose, one of the managers in that department, will join you later today to further discuss these initiatives and, of course, their significance. As you participate in today's activities for Energy Month, I really hope that this event helps you to recognize the role you all play in teaching and learning in the world of green education, and helps you to better envision what it means to be responsible Caribbean citizens who promote and practice the habits and skills needed to ensure a viable, sustainable, and resilient future. Ladies and gentlemen, it is indeed my pleasure to have spoken to you this morning. Thank you again, and I wish you all the best. Bye-bye from CXC.
Idiom. Today we are going to do something different.
Mr. Sir, now me and you, you trying to make my life without happiness and flavor. You find I'm not servant enough for school, so you wanna make me a slave now? Just leave me in peace.
Exactly, idiom. Peace is what I will teach. Peace of mind. Reach into your lunch bag and tell me what you find.
Well, whatever in the box lunchline, but since COVID start and we boxed online, today I having a box of fast food and some soft drink aligned. What?
This is where our change could start, idiom. Let me introduce you to greening the curriculum.
Nah, Mr. Sir, green nothing. You start bad when you want to touch what I eating.
This is beyond you.
Because I cannot see it.
Think of your body as the earth. Now tell me, how are you feeling?
Well, obviously, hungry.
Well, the things you put inside make you full but unhealthy. Idiom. The wealthy often depends on a lifestyle that leads to detriment to the environment. So while fossil fuels making paper, Mother Earth in unending labor, ready to give birth to a disaster that we cannot pay for. It could be a sour end for you and for your neighbor.
But Mr. Sir, I like my neighbor. He is a little cute baby, now born, now forming ideas of the world he is living in.
Well, listen, your neighbor could actually have a long life if you come on board with this. It's bliss. It's a refix to how we think. It is a teaching style to fit a planet on the brink. It is to bring the concerns of the earth to class. So when you write the exam and pass, the earth actually succeeds. Idiom. We're making the curriculum green. Come and see.
What you mean green? Like taking a crayon and coloring the scene? Mr. Sir, where you going? Don't leave, Mr. Sir. Green is not even my favorite color. Mr. Sir, oh Lord, please, come now.
Welcome to the Green Table Talk, a series focused on the need to green the education curriculum in order to prepare the next generation for the regional transition to a sustainable energy future. In our first session, we'll discuss how we can ensure sustainability through a greening of the CXC curriculum. This session will be moderated by Miss Elizabeth Bullock. Miss Bullock will be joined by Miss Jodine Williams. Dr. Paulette Bino. And Mrs. Latoya Wedderburn Rose. And now, it's time to get into the Green Table Talk.
Good morning, everyone. A very warm welcome to the Green Table Talk segment of our Green Education and Career Day. I am Elizabeth Bullock, and I will be moderating episode 1 of the Green Table Talk series today. I hold a bachelor's in physics with minors in environmental physics and electronics, and an MPhil physics with focus in geothermal energy and geophysics, both from the University of the West Indies, St. Augustine campus, Trinidad. Currently, I work as an energy solutions assistant at the Caribbean Electric Utility Services Corporation, CARELEC. At this time, please allow me to acknowledge our partners today: the CARICOM Energy Unit, the Center for Renewable Energy and Energy Efficiency, the Caribbean Examinations Council, CXC, and the University of Guyana, UG. Without the combined efforts and support of these institutions who partnered with the TAPS program, this event would not have been possible. Before we commence, I'd like to go through some general housekeeping announcements. You are kindly asked to please type your questions in the Q&A box, and the moderator, myself, will pose them to the presenters. For presenters, we ask that you keep your mics on mute and videos turned off until it is your time to present. If you encounter any difficulties, please call on one of our representatives. During the next 40 minutes, we will be engaging you on the topic of ensuring sustainability through education and CXC greening in focus. Now, I'd like to introduce our first panelist, Ms. Jodine Williams, Senior Manager, Syllabus and Curriculum Development Unit of the Caribbean Examinations Council. Ms. Jodine Williams joined the staff of the Caribbean Examinations Council, CXC, in March 2014 as Assistant Registrar, Syllabus and Curriculum Development Unit at the Western Zone Office in Jamaica, and was promoted to Senior Manager, Syllabus and Curriculum Development in 2017. As Senior Manager, Ms. Williams has oversight for syllabus and curriculum development and is responsible for providing technical and quality leadership for syllabus and curriculum development, resource development, and training. Ms. Williams has extensive experience in the technical, vocational, education, and training (TVET) arena nationally and regionally. Ms. Williams is an educator with over 26 years proven experience in curriculum development, education leadership and management, transformational servant leadership, relationship building, education inspection, TVET assessment, program development and delivery, project management, risk management, and total quality management. She is currently a doctoral student at the California Coast University. She holds a Master's of Arts in Education with an emphasis in curriculum and instruction from the Northern Caribbean University, NCU, and a Bachelor of Education with first-class honors from the University of Technology, Jamaica. She has been the recipient of both academic and professional accolades, with the most recent being the 2019 Employee of the Year Award for Western Zone Office of the Caribbean Examinations Council. Before we get into the discussion with Ms. Williams, I'd like to give you a little background. During 2018, the Caribbean Examinations Council received technical assistance support under the Renewable Energy and Energy Efficiency Technical Assistance RETA program to improve the capacity and awareness of Caribbean students on sustainable energy issues. The technical assistance provided the following: the development of a digital toolkit for the green engineering syllabus, the training of some teachers on the digital toolkit developed, and the preparation of a concept paper in support of the integration and sustainability in the CXC programs in general, that is, greening curricula. The technical assistance identified a need for the development of a singular sustainable energy program, which supported a preliminary introduction to sustainable energy at the pre-university level. The need for additional capacity and institutional strengthening in the mainstreaming of green and learning concepts across the Caribbean Qualification Framework, CQF 21, was lacking. Now, in light of this, Ms. Williams, could you please comment on the rationale for including the concept of sustainable practice into the CXC syllabus in subject areas? And of these 10 subjects, what impacts do you hope to achieve, and what subjects do you foresee making more defined impacts in sustainability? Ms. Williams, over to you.
Thank you so much, Elizabeth. Good morning, everyone. The Caribbean Examinations Council, we understand our role in education across the region. And at the secondary level in particular, we recognize that we do have a number of ministries of education that have not yet released academic curriculum. Now, with that in mind, and with our knowledge of the educational landscape, we recognize that if we are to impact economic development within our region, then we have to do that through the delivery of syllabuses that are current and relevant. With this particular understanding, the whole business of sustainability, and I'm smiling because of the presentation made earlier, the power word intervention. If we don't do something about it now, then we perhaps won't have a society for tomorrow for others to be able to benefit from. So we recognize that there are some skills that are necessary if our young people and our own generation are to be able to contribute to sustainability and to the sustainable agenda, the development agenda that the governments of the region have. And so CXC responded accordingly. So at the examining board, one of the first things that we recognized we had to do was to take a look at the general focus of greening, making sure that we understood greening and making sure that we had some kind of an appreciation for the direction we needed to go. And so while the work we did internally may have been anecdotal, there was a fulsome audit that was carried out by a consultancy team. I'm smiling because that team was also led at the time by Dr. Paulette Bino. And her expertise has brought us to where we are today, supported by her other colleagues. The 10 syllabuses in question, which one will make the greatest impact? It's kind of difficult to say because the nature of the syllabus is going to determine the level of the impact that it will make. And the level of reception of the individuals who pursue the course of study will also determine that. A simple thing as turning on and off the lights may seem very simplistic, but it could be our own personal contribution. Now, which syllabus are we going to tie that to? For those of us who study home economics, we may see home economics. For those of us who study industrial tech, we may see the relevance of it to the electrical component of it, industrial tech. I expect and anticipate that as we build the capacity of our teachers, every single syllabus will make a significant impact. And because of our focus on holistic education, we expect that together, complementing each other, we'll have the kind of impact that we're gunning for in the region. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Williams. Very insightful answers. Now, I'd like to follow up with another question. Apart from restructuring the various syllabi, what other strategies are being involved by CXC to guarantee a labor market for young people when they finish school and have completed these subjects?
The syllabuses are designed to address labor market concerns, and through our process, we engage the industry experts. We engage the person at the tertiary level, and so our students who will go on for further studies will be able to utilize that information as well. Because of where we are uniquely positioned, it may be very difficult for me to say we are guaranteeing any kind of uptake because some of our students may not go directly into employment opportunities, but certainly those students who go to work, they would have gone with those skills that they would have developed through their engagement with the syllabus. And those who move on to further studies would have had those skills also as the foundational skills for my tertiary colleagues to build upon. And that's how we see it impacting. We also recognize that it is important for us to create articulation opportunities for our students who are moving on to the tertiary level, and CXC is very committed to that process. We have a number of articulation agreements that you have seen signaling our commitment. We have arrangements with universities, both in Jamaica and across the region and across the diaspora as well. So that's basically how we see ourselves being situated in that respect.
All right, thank you once again. And I'd like to follow up with this final question to you. Apart from promoting sustainability content through these subjects, will efforts be taken to ensure that they are delivered in a sustainable manner? For example, through energy efficient methods, reducing paper usage, sustainable projects, recycling, or reducing carbon footprint?
we certainly would have to do that, or the cycle would not be complete. And we have actually started doing that in our own process. Most persons would have known by now that CXC, we have an e-strategy where we are deploying our syllabuses and our resources and our examinations in a virtual space. And so that signals a part of the commitment to making sure that persons understand that we are committed to this process in a very big way. In addition to that, we ensured through this particular process, thanks to GIZ for the funding that was provided, that our teachers have already started the training. So while the syllabuses have not yet gone live, and that is a loose way of saying that the syllabuses are not yet released for implementation for teaching, we have started the process to train and upskill our teachers to ensure that they understand and appreciate the value of the greening, that the syllabuses are, the concepts that are integrated, they understand the relevance of the concepts. And the sessions that were conducted by the consulting team from the University of Guyana had a significant amount of modeling. So persons understood, the teachers were engaged in these kinds of activities, that even if they are in their own embryonic stage of learning and development, if they do exactly what the UG team did until they build their own skills, then they would be delivering it in a sustainable way. And we will continue to do that as we continue to support the development agenda when it comes on to greening. More and more of our resources are going to go E, and more of our engagements will go E. And COVID kind of just catapult us into the right direction when it comes on to the level of electronic and online engagement that we needed to be involved in. Thanks, Elizabeth.
All right, thank you so much, Ms. Williams. These have been some very enlightening responses, and everyone, you heard it firsthand. As Ms. Williams correctly said it, if we don't do something about it now, we probably won't have a society tomorrow. And we can see that it is the goal of the CXC to support economic development within the region through the delivery of current and relevant syllabuses. We can see that the holistic development of all learners is a #1 priority. CXC's qualifications prepare students for further education and the world of work. And it is hoped that by integrating these concepts, all of these subjects will have an impact on teachers and learners. And as we can see that they have been equally integrated in that process and the approach to sustainability. And additionally, we see the need for collaboration across all spheres in making these initiatives work, as we see the commitment from CXC to creating articulation opportunities. With that being said, I'd now like to introduce Dr. Paulette Baino to continue the discussion. Dr. Paulette Baino is a senior lecturer and deputy dean of the University of Guyana School of Graduate Studies and Research. She has a PhD in geography from the University of Sussex, UK, an MPhil in environmental education from the University of Bradford, and the Bachelor's of Arts in Geography from the University of Guyana, and is an interdisciplinary trained environmental specialist. Dr. Baino has taught postgraduate and courses in community disaster risk management, ecotourism development, environmental impact assessment, research methods, and environmental resources policy. In 2015, she was awarded the Golden Arrow of Achievement by His Excellency, the President of the Cooperative Republic of Guyana, for her contribution to environmental education and training, research, and the development of policies on natural resources management. Dr. Baino currently serves in various capacities nationally, regionally, and internationally, including the chair for G77 and China for the UNFCCC negotiations in 2020, Global Water Partnership Steering Committee internationally, and advisor to the G77 and China chair for climate change from January to December 2017. I now speak on the discussion background with Dr. Baino. This program mainstreaming green learning concepts in the educational syllabus of the Caribbean Examinations Council is intended to build upon the successes achieved from the RETA program by integration of green and learning concepts into the new and existing syllabus of the Council at the CSEC and CAPE levels and strengthen teacher training capacity for the effective delivery of the new pedagogical methods identified for CXC. The TAPSEX program's second strategic components, Component 2, Information and Capacity Building, seeks to ensure that the individual, collective, and institutional capacity for delivering technical solutions among key players in the renewable energy and energy efficiency field are strengthened. As such, a contract was signed with the implementing consultancy, the University of Guyana. The UG commenced working collaboratively with the Council on July 6, 2020. The main objective of this activity is to strengthen the CXC certification process for RE and EE skills across the CARIFORUM member states. The specific objectives of this assignment are the strengthening of teacher training capacity in the delivery and assessment of the CAPE Green Engineering syllabus, the provision of technical assistance support to the Caribbean Examinations Council with integrating green concepts into the pre-selected CSEC and CAPE level certifications, the scoping and development activities to facilitate revision, design, and approval for the integrating of greening concepts into CXC and CAPE, the completion of the redevelopment process for CSEC technical drawing and the CAPE building and mechanical drawing syllabus, and the completion of teacher training workshops to enhance teaching proficiencies in these subject areas. Lastly, the strengthening of the proficiency of teachers to deliver the newly revised syllabus at the CSEC and CAPE levels through teacher training workshops, knowledge transfer sessions, and other relevant modes of training and sensitization. In that regards, Dr. Binu, could you kindly share with us the intervention of sustainable development in the Caribbean Examinations Council syllabus in these 10 subject areas? Dr. Binu, over to you. Dr. Binu, can you kindly unmute?
Sorry about that. Thank you, Madam Moderator, and good morning to everyone. All protocols observed. Let me first express my gratitude to you for this opportunity to participate in this panel discussion. I want to say very early that the UG team comprised Mrs. Alcian from Perry, Mrs. Sandra Britton, and myself. So we need to understand that education, and in particular lifelong education, is the cornerstone of sustainable development. That alone tells us that it can never be considered a peripheral matter or peripheral intervention. Because when we talk about education, we're moving from awareness and knowledge and skills to attitudinal changes and the motivation to change your behavior. So having said that, the intervention on sustainable development with particular reference to sustainable energy is very timely and very critical. We all know the discussions on a changing climate and how it's important for us to consider energy as a critical sector in our national determined contributions. Now, when we talk about the intervention for the 10 subjects that would have been highlighted already, I want to explain to you that we are not, the aim was not to add to the syllabuses, because teachers still have the same time to deliver the syllabus. So if you add, there will be a lot of problems there because teachers will tell you that they are already overwhelmed with the content. And so if we're not increasing the time for the delivery of the subjects, we have to find a model that will not require additional time. So basically, we use what is known as the infusion model, integration. And in order to do that, we first had to follow a few steps that I want to highlight. We surveyed teachers and students of the targeted subjects to ensure that we had baseline in terms of their knowledge of the issue. And in particular, we're talking here about sustainable energy, the gaps, what are their perceptions and what are their attitudes. We also conducted in-depth interviews with subject specialists in the education sector, also energy experts. And then we conducted audits of each of the syllabuses. And that provided the baseline for the intervention. I'm saying all of that to show that when you want to integrate a particular topic into the curriculum, it's important for you to really first conduct that audit and to get feedback from teachers and students. Now, having done that, we ensure that the teachers of all the subjects first understood what sustainable development means. And this is critical because when we're talking about sustainable development, teachers and students must understand that it is not only about ecological sustainability, but that we're talking about the 3 pillars. We're talking about ecology, or if you want to say environmental conservation, we're talking about society, and we are talking about the economy. And in fact, we spent a lot of time explaining to teachers that when you look at the Sustainable Development Goals, here we see Goal 1, no poverty. Goal 7, we're talking about affordable and clean energy. And Goal 13, climate action. And those 3 goals really underscore the importance of sustainable development. Okay, so in what ways did we promote this intervention, this infusion into the subjects? And time would not allow me to speak to all of the subjects, but I can highlight a few. So if you consider tourism, transportation is critical to the tourism sector. Lighting, the use of energy, AC units, and all of that. So for the tourism syllabus, we looked at ways in which tourism operate within the syllabus. How can the students think of the optimization of renewable energy for the activities within the tourism sector? And then the importance of conducting energy audits. Each tourism operation can conduct energy audits to understand the extent to which energy is being used, energy can be conserved, and the opportunities that exist for you to really focus on the use of renewable energy. Then we also looked at what sort of policy interventions are required to incentivize the change. So it's not only about the problem, but in terms of the solution, what the government needs to do. If we look at home economics, because Someone might say, why would you want to consider incorporation of sustainable energy? Well, we're talking about renewable energy, we're talking about energy efficiency, we're talking about energy conservation. So even in terms of the appliances that are used for that particular discipline, students understand the need to read labels and to understand and really to appreciate the use of energy efficient appliances. If we take just one other example, environmental science. It is not sufficient for the students to understand pollution. So in our intervention, we try to incorporate a more systematic way of thinking about environmental issues. What are the drivers? What are the root causes of the problem? So if we talk about global warming or climate change as a whole, how does production and consumption, how do production and consumption lead to problems we have in climate change? How can persons change their behaviors? And so we focus on specific objectives of the syllabus in each case to see how we can infuse sustainable energy. And I can guarantee that each subject lent itself to that. Agriculture science, the use of solar power, very important, bioenergy. So you can really understand and appreciate why energy is so critical and why it is appropriate for us to infuse in each of the subjects. And I must say that the teachers were very excited because what we did in the process of the training was not only to have a lecture discussion, but we had breakout sessions that allowed teachers to select specific objectives and to develop lessons and then to present those lessons, and we provided feedback. So this was a practical aspect of the training. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much for your insights, Dr. Bainu. I'd now like to follow up with this other question. How will the pedagogical methods ensure that teachers can efficiently and effectively ensure that the inclusions of sustainable practices are in sync with what the future transition would require?
Okay, so importantly, when we talk about sustainable education or education for sustainability, we draw on what is known as the modes of environmental education. And there are three interconnected modes. Education about the environment. And so they just having an awareness of the issues of sustainable energy and sustainability as a whole is very important in terms of content. But you and I know, and those online would know, that just the knowledge and the awareness might not affect the changes that are required. So we have promoted in each of the syllabuses education in and through the environment, where the environment now becomes the lab. So the use of field visits, field studies, going to a tourism, some tourism operation where they can actually conduct or to observe how an energy audit is conducted, visit a farm. So the interaction with the natural environment is critical because you are able to transcend just maybe the memorizers, exam memorizers, if you just want to learn what is said in the classroom, and you transcend that and you're able to apply it to the real world. And that is important. It's very, very important. And having done that, we look at the last mode, education for the environment. So using scenarios, getting students to write letters to their editors and national newspapers would really allow them to think critically, to solve problems, and to see how the attitudes can be changed. So education about, education for and through, and education for the environment. Of course, time doesn't permit me to get into the details, but really we have identified several activities for students, particularly through the SBAs.
All right, thank you so much, Dr. Bino. Those have definitely been some very enlightening responses. And, you know, as a student who would have passed through the CXC process, CSEC, you know, it brings back to memory, you know, those days, and actually interacting and still remembering those field visits that we would have had. So I just like to sum up some of the main points that Dr. Bino gave us. And we see that we need to consider energy as a critical sector in our national development contributions in our various countries and, of course, throughout the region at large. We need to consider the 3 pillars of sustainability: environmental conservation, society, and the environment. And students can understand the use of energy efficiency in all applications of life around them. And it is imperative that we incorporate a more systematic way of driving environmental issues, where we can have teachers actively involved, as we heard, and draw on the modes of environmental education, which are education about the environment, education for and through the environment, and education for the environment. With that being said, let's move on now to speak with Mrs. Wedderburn Rose. Mrs. Latoya Wedderburn Rose joined the staff of the Caribbean Examinations Council, CXC, in November 2019 in the position of Manager, Syllabus and Curriculum Development, Syllabus Development and Maintenance. Mrs. Wedderburn Rose holds a Master of Education in Curriculum Development from the University of the West, Mona, and a Bachelor of Education Diploma in Teaching from Shortwood Teachers College. She has over 10 years experience in the field and has served as an education officer of policy analysis and research in the Ministry of Education, Youth and Information, Jamaica. Now for a little on the discussion background with Mrs. Wedderburn Rose. The expected outcomes of the consultancy that you heard of earlier are enhanced teacher training capacity at the regional level, resulting in an increased number of teachers capable of delivering and assessing the Cape Green Engineering syllabus, a newly revised syllabi at the CSEC and Cape certification levels with relevant greening focus, a strategy document that outlines the greening concepts, the components to be included in each given subject area, the implementation strategy, and the broad recommendations to be considered and approved by the Caribbean Examinations Council, and enhanced teacher training capacity at the regional level in the delivery of greening content for selected CSEC subjects. Mrs. Wedderburn Rose, I'd now like to invite you to let us know what were some of the lessons feedback from teachers and students. Over to you.
Good morning, everyone. Just want to use the opportunity to thank you for the invite. It's really a pleasure to be participating as a member of this panel. So I will speak to some of the lessons learned, as well as the feedback that we would have received from the teachers who were engaged in the training. But just to give a little background, there were 6 teacher training sessions that we conducted, and 8 out of the 10 syllabuses that we would have mentioned before were impacted. And these were the CSEC technical drawing, integrated science, social studies, as well as the Cape Building and Mechanical Engineering Drawing, Agricultural Science, Tourism, and Environmental Science. Now, the rationale for the training was really to sensitize teachers with the inclusion or the strengthening of the greening content. I know that Dr. Banner would have mentioned that it's not really adding content, but really strengthening what was there so that teachers could really see that, you know, we do not teach in silos and that things really have an impact on other things. So we wanted to build the capacity of the teachers so that they would feel comfortable implementing the syllabuses. It was really a learning experience, I think, for all parties involved, the facilitators, as well as the teachers. The nature of the training, for one, was designed so that teachers were given an opportunity to collaborate with each other, to have a discussion with their colleagues, as well as to have a discussion with the presenters. So we used a combination of synchronous and asynchronous methods, where teachers were engaged in activities via Zoom, as well as via the CXC Learning Institute. Now, at the end of each training, what we did, we launched an evaluation so that we could really get from teachers, you know, how they would have responded to the sessions, you know, to see if they had any drawbacks, if they had any suggestions, if they had any recommendations. Now, of the 6 trainings that we had a total of, I think, approximately 780 teachers who were in attendance. And we got feedback from, I think, about 630 teachers thereabout regarding the training. We had a satisfaction rating of 98%, which I think was very good, and would suggest that the teachers really enjoyed the training and they benefited from what it was that we wanted them to really gain. The evaluation would have brought back responses that suggested that the teachers felt that the activities that they were engaged in, that they were beneficial. They would have mentioned that they enjoyed the lesson planning activities because it allowed them to really have firsthand knowledge, not only knowledge, but really see how what it was that we strengthened, what was included, how it really worked. I think the teachers really liked the collaboration because they would have mentioned that they had eye-opening moments where they saw how things that they would not have thought of before, how it is that they could really use them. They were able to garner different strategies that they could implement in their own lessons as well. And I think it was good because they really see how other teachers across the region, how they were thinking, and how it is that they could employ like best practices. So for me, and from the responses that we received, the teachers they felt that the training was beneficial. They felt that they were truly engaged. They felt that the objectives of the training, that they were clear, and that it was not wasted time. It was actually time that they were able to see that, guess what? Things that are happening in the world, they are real. And the syllabuses are a way that we can use to show that students that this is what we need to do, and these are the ways that we can really get these things done.
All right, thank you so much. We'd like to move on to the second question we have for you, is that what was some of the responses from the teachers on the program about the inclusions made to the syllabus?
Okay. Now, I must confess that not everyone really bought into the thinking that we had at first, because I know Ms. Williams would have mentioned when you asked her about the impact of the syllabuses and which syllabus would really have a greater impact in terms of how the content was integrated. You find that there were some teachers who felt that, I mean, this can't work for my area of specialization. I don't see how this will work. But after the training, you realize that persons were saying that I really see this can work. I see that it is meaningful, and I'm really excited to implement it and to show students that, guess what, that we may be looking at social studies, we may be looking at tourism, we may be looking at agricultural science, but the whole idea of greening, of energy efficiency, of renewable energy, this is applicable to my situation. And we have to really take a stand and see how we can be the change that we are looking to achieve. The teachers, I believe, as the training progressed, they became very open to the inclusions. They became very open to the strengthening. And I think they were very appreciative of the fact that we took the time to really build their capacity, to expose them to the inclusion, to expose them to the different methodologies that they can use. I know Dr. Bano mentioned that they would have developed resource guides for teachers and students, things that will complement the syllabuses, things that they can use to kind of strengthen the content and to strengthen the teaching and learning process. There were some teachers, however, who felt that there is a need for additional capacity building prior to the rollout of the syllabuses. And I must say that this is a part of our process here at the Caribbean Examinations Council. Once a syllabus is revised or developed, or teachers are trained or they are oriented, because you know that once you include additional content, once you strengthen content, the teachers have to be aware of the content. They also have to be aware of how it is that they can implement the content that was added or included. So I just want to use the opportunity to encourage all our teachers to stay tuned, to listen out for those adverts as to when we will be having additional training opportunities.
All right, thank you so much, Mrs. Wedderburn. Some very insightful feedback there, and it is, you know, it's so nice to hear about the fact that so many teachers, over 780 teachers from 19 territories, who would have participated in that training and yielded a satisfaction rating of 98%. And it really goes to show, you know, how well these teachers would have appreciated that training and how much they would have learned. It's very insightful and very welcoming to hear that some of the teachers who had their initial preconceived ideas about it being a challenge to apply some of these changes to their syllabus in terms of green engineering, having learned more, it was very relevant, as they saw, and applicable for them to change and adapt to the situations that we are currently facing. And it is very good to know as well that there are different methodologies that they would have been exposed to that can be used. Now, I'd like open our Q&A session to anyone who has questions for our panelists. Have any questions that were posed, or does anyone have any questions that we are currently posing and would like to pose? We welcome those now. All right, so we're seeing that there are no questions right now, which is all right. And so at this time, if we not be having any, we'll come back to those because of the time constraints. And what I'd like to do right now is to give our vote of thanks. So first and foremost, I would love to express my appreciation to the panelists for their valuable contribution to this first episode of the Green Table Talk series, Ensuring Sustainability Through Education and CXC Greening in Focus. My deepest gratitude goes out to all who have attended and have helped to make this event such a success. This program, mainstreaming green learning concepts in the educational syllabus of the Caribbean Examinations Council, was built upon the successes achieved from the RETA program that allowed for the integration of some green learning concepts into the new and existing syllabus of the Council at the CSEC and CAPE levels. The greening program also provided training to strengthen teaching competencies among teachers in the region. The TAPSEC program followed the RETA program and is implemented by the Deutsche Gesellschaft für internationale Zusammenarbeit, GIZ or GmbH, and made possible through the financial development and support of the European Union and the German Federal Ministry of Economic Cooperation and Development. The TAPSEX program's second strategic component, Component 2, Information and Capacity Building, ensures that the individual, collective, and institutional capacity for delivering technical solutions among key players in the renewable energy and energy efficiency field are strengthened. This component informed the contract, which focused on mainstreaming greening learning concepts in the educational syllabus of the Caribbean Examinations Council with a consultancy group from the University of Guyana. In my capacity as facilitator of this event, I thought it would be appropriate and useful to summarize some of the themes and ideas coming out of this webinar. It will be useful for the capacity development to guide the energy transition in the region. Firstly, I think the webinar has been very effective in meeting its purpose, which is hearing from the Caribbean Examinations Council on how the education system is ensuring that persons completing these examinations are prepared for the transition and what new mechanisms will be implemented to encourage education for sustainability in the region. Highlighting the work completed by the consultants from the UG towards the greening of some of the Caribbean Examinations Council syllabus. And secondly, following on these themes, there were a number of important and interesting points raised during the discussions. As we heard from Ms. Jolene Williams, if we don't do something now about it, we probably won't have a society tomorrow. The holistic development of all learners is a #1 priority. CXC's qualifications prepare students for further education and the world of work, and it is hoped that by integrating these concepts, all the subjects will have an impact on teachers and learners and their approach to sustainability. From Dr. Paula Bainu, we heard about the need to consider energy as a critical sector in our national development contributions. We need to consider the 3 pillars of sustainability, which are environmental conservation, society, and the economy, and to incorporate a more systematic way of driving environmental issues. And we saw the need to now have the environment as the lab, having more field visits and interaction with the natural environment, which is critical to transcend the cliche regurgitation process. And finally, from Mrs. Wedderburn, we heard about 700+ teachers from these 19 territories around the region who participated in this training and yielded a satisfaction rating of 98%, who saw the need to apply these changes to their subject areas. All of this has highlighted the work done during the past year and the energy transition journey that the Caribbean is embarking on. Before ending my closing remarks, I would like to convey a special thanks to the CXC Syllabus Review Team, the University of Guyana Syllabus Development Team, and teachers who participated from across the Caribbean region who have worked together to realize the inclusion of green concepts in the syllabus. I would like to reiterate our thanks to our partners for making this event possible. The CARICOM Energy Unit, the Center for Renewable Energy and Energy Efficiency, CCRE, the Caribbean Examinations Council, CXC, and the University of Guyana, UG. Finally, my deepest thanks are of course reserved for the TAPSEC, CARICOM, and CCRE teams for their priceless contributions and for running a smooth event. Thank you. This is now the end of episode 1.
Idiom, why don't you come and find me? I want us to talk about sustainability.
Come find you? Where?
Greening the curriculum is the shade of care needed for the future. It is about placing sustainability in the suits of every subject area.
Why we just can't learn with tables and perimeter and area? All this green songing like harder labor.
Actually, it's not idiom. Every age of civilization educated the nation to what the future wants. If education is the key to survival, then consider greening the arrival of the latest survival tactics. Education can be an anime and we acting like if it's a Lifetime movie. We have to shift with the times, else the future will move the playing field and we will still be talking about shifting goalposts and we end up playing for the other team.
Slow down, Mr. Sir. That metaphor had too much speed.
All right, let me slow it. Greening the curriculum is the know whats and know ifs for surviving the future situation. Isn't that the purpose of education?
Yes, but what I have to do with you or we? And what I have to do with you underneath that tree?
Because this is our future and I want you to see the ethics of sustainability. Give you a reason to care. When we become connected to nature, it's easier to hear why we need to save her. So come find me.
Just now, Mr. Singh, you ain't give me a map or a location, Mr. Singh. I don't know where to look. You could be anywhere from here to Grandy to Toko or down in Book, Mr. Singh. Oh gosh, send the location now. Mr. Singh, I want somebody greening, man. Come now. Mr. Singh.
Welcome to the Green Table Talk, a series focused on the need to green the education curriculum in order to prepare the next generation for the regional transition to a sustainable energy future. Our next session explores how we can equip our Caribbean youth for a smart future. Ms. Sapphire Vital, Sustainable Energy Junior Engineer of the Project Preparation Facility at SICRI, will be moderating this session, and she'll be joined by Dr. Claire Nelson, Chief Futurist and Ideation Leader of the Futures Forum, White House Champion of Change and author, and Dr. Gary Jackson, SICRI Executive Director. Let's get into the Green Table Talk.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to episode 2 of the Green Table Talk. And this is entitled Equipping Caribbean Youth for a Smart Future. My name is Sapphire Vital, and I will be moderating the session this morning. A little bit about me. I am a Sustainable Energy Junior Engineer at the Caribbean Center for Renewable Energy and Energy Efficiency. I'm enthusiastic about sustainable energy and resilient infrastructure development. I hold a MSc in Environmental Change and Management from the University of Oxford and a BSc in Civil with Environmental Engineering from the University of the West Indies, St. Augustine campus. Before I proceed any further, please allow me to acknowledge our partners, the CARICOM Energy Unit, the Caribbean Center for Renewable Energy and Energy Efficiency, the Caribbean Examination Council, and the University of Guyana. Without the combined efforts and support of these institutions who partnered with the TAPSET program, this event would not have been possible. Just to go over a few housekeeping matters, please remember that you can type any questions that you have in the Q&A box, and I will pose these questions to the panelists at the end of our discussion. And if you encounter any difficulties, please feel free to use the technical assistant button on the platform. So today we are joined by 2 esteemed panelists, and during the next 40 minutes, they will share their perspectives and thoughts on our topic, which is equipping Caribbean youth for a smart future. So our 2 panelists today are Dr. Claire Nelson, who is a Chief Futurist and Ideation Leader at the Futures Forum, a White House Champion of Change, and an author. As a futurist and sustainability engineer, Dr. Nelson helps organizations and people see the future more clearly and map the journey of their desired future. Listed among Forbes' top 50 female futurists, through her insightful storytelling, she helps people feel the future. A board member of the World Futures Studies Federation, she is a creative, strategic thinker and change agent. Dr. Nelson is also a keynote speaker and ideation leader on the future, covering topics such as from future shock to future sense, the future of well-being, Industry 4.0, the future of the American dream. Her experience includes speaking at the Salzburg Seminar on Moral, Ethical, and Spiritual Leadership, World Steel, U.S. Air Force, and Purdue University. She is the author of Smart Futures for a Flourishing World, a paradigm shift for achieving global sustainability. Dr. Nelson's experience includes pioneering development equity and strategic foresight and development assistant at the Inter-American Development Bank, leading the identification and development of technical assistance in innovation portfolios in renewable energy, stock exchange development, healthcare, intellectual property, and privatization across the Caribbean and Latin America. Her specialties include strategic foresight, international development, project design, sustainability engineering, scenario analysis, stakeholder consultations, futures explorations, design and facilitation, and storytelling in business. And we're also joined by Dr. Gary Jackson, who is the Executive Director at the Caribbean Center for Renewable Energy and Energy Efficiency. Dr. Jackson is on a mission to increase awareness and development of renewable energy and energy efficiency agenda within the Caribbean region. As the CRE's Executive Director, Dr. Jackson leads the implementation of 3 main priority areas. These include creating an expert knowledge base, optimizing technological solutions through tool development, and transforming the region by utilizing sustainable energy as a means to advance the well-being of at-risk and vulnerable groups. Dr. Jackson was appointed to the post in October of 2018. He holds a Doctor of Philosophy degree in Mechanical Engineering and a Master of Science degree in Project Management, both from the University of Birmingham, United Kingdom. He also holds a Bachelor of Science degree in Mechanical Engineering from the University of the West Indies, St. Augustine campus. He is a registered engineer in Jamaica, a member of the Association of Energy Engineers, a certified energy manager, and a member of the Society of Automotive Engineers. A warm welcome to Dr. Nelson and Dr. Jackson. So jumping right into it, I'd like to pose my first question to both of our panelists. And as said, our topic for discussion is equipping Caribbean youth for a smart future. And the first question that comes to my mind is, what does a smart future entail? So to you first, Dr. Nelson, given your experience as a futurist, what would an ideal smart future look like to you?
Thank you so much for the opportunity to talk about a subject near and dear to my heart. I have defined SMART very specifically, and it's an acronym. And it came out of my sort of upset that people kept on thinking that because something has bells and whistles and AI and sensors, it's automatically going to provide a better life for humans. And so Smart Futures is one for me where human life is centered. And so SMART, the S in SMART, means that we're designing always for sustainable systems. The M is a move towards meaningful metrics, that our metrics do not serve us right now. We don't measure waste. For example, we don't measure the cost of removal of things in our products. So GDP and those other GNP do not take into account the true cost to society of our built environment and the things we use on a daily basis. A stands for agency of all the stakeholders in a system. So I'm very systems oriented. So whether we're talking about renewable energy system or the food system or the healthcare system, it's all systems, right? It's all systems, stupid. And so actually am prejudiced. I think engineers should actually run the world, not economists, but that's another story. R is for resilience. We must design for robust resilience. And T means transformative use of technology. And so I would like to see, certainly in the Caribbean, for me, Smart Futures means a region where we, for example, begin to deal and treat with new economic measures such as well-being. We need to treat how we manage the waste that is affecting our coral reefs or blue economy differently. And what I'd love to see more than anything else is a transition to a new metric, which is moving from GDP and GNP to things like genuine progress indicator or gross national well-being. And I'll leave it there.
Thank you so much, Dr. Nelson. That was very insightful. Thank you for sharing the meaning of the acronym with us and, talking about the need for us to focus on the well-being of people. So Dr. Jackson, same question posed to you. You can react to Dr. Nelson's intervention and also share what is your vision of a smart future, especially as someone with such a rich experience in the sustainable energy sector. What will the energy system look like in your vision of an ideal future?
Thank you very much, Sophia. I actually like the acronym, and I actually like what you said about engineers, although that could be kind of dangerous as well if you were to start taking over. So interestingly, I want to take a little step back because I think the future is how we are going to define it, how we are going to design it. And the children are listening to us after this, and they would have to define this for themselves. But from what we are seeing now, the vision that I'm seeing is something that is going to be very intrusive. We'll have to be trusting each other at the highest level because data is going to be so dominant in the future of the energy systems. It's going to be intuitive. There was an ad, kind of controversial ad, where this Japanese baby was born, and then he came out of the womb. He took a picture of his father. So they knew how to use technology before, just as they were born. They can actually adapt to a situation faster than us. I was recently having a conversation with my wife about children and the evolution and how they can actually hold up their heads before, even before they are 1 month old, how they are actually evolving over time. So intuitive, I believe that is what the vision, that is what I'm going to be seeing. It's going to be very interactive because it's going to be connecting so many systems together. It's going to be integrative. So as Dr. Bynum was talking about agriculture and tourism, it's going to be so interlinked that with our intuition, we'll actually know what is combined and what is connected to what. It's going to be extremely intelligent. My fear is that systems may become more intelligent than people because there's going to be machine learning. And I think that we have to be ahead of that curve before we self-destruct. So we have to be in a position to, in this particular thing, smart people for smart systems, not have smart systems without smart people. So I see the vision as having that clear, very futuristic, and as Dr. Nelson mentioned in that acronym, but that it's very integrative and very intuitive. Thanks.
Thank you, Dr. Jackson. I think that was very insightful. It's really important to, think about how everything is connected. It doesn't exist in silos. All our sectors are connected. People, and environment, we're all very much connected. So my next question zooms in a little bit on the climate change aspect, and I'll pose it to you first, Dr. Nelson. So you would have attended COP26 very recently. And, the main objective of that conference was to encourage countries to ramp up their efforts to mitigate against climate change. And we're asking countries to achieve net zero to keep within 1.5 degrees increase of global temperature rise. Decarbonation is the #1 thing that we need to achieve this goal. And with that needed transition, we will see a shift in the job market. So for instance, there's some data that points to the fact that in the Caribbean and Latin America, we may experience a loss of 7.5 million jobs in the fossil fuel, electricity generation, fossil fuel extraction, and animal-based food production industries. But on the other hand, we can see an availability of possibly 22.5 million new jobs in the agriculture and plant-based food production, renewable energy, forestry, construction, and manufacturing sectors. So to keep up with this shift, we'll need to ensure that our educational systems, our youth, can accommodate these changes and the challenges that climate change brings us. So against this broader background, Dr. Nelson, from your perspective, how can we navigate this shift in landscape? Particularly, how can we prepare our Caribbean young people to thrive within the shift?
I really think that the Caribbean young people need to have a much, and I haven't been in the school system for a long time, but the stories I've heard, especially because of COVID and the diaspora becoming more engaged in sending home equipment, etc., is that we still have what I call a very weak STEM-based system. We still have very weak high schools in terms of laboratories, and our math teachers, for example, are not necessarily, those who are in the school system right now are themselves sometimes, I've been told by colleagues of mine who are math teachers in the region, are sometimes afraid of math, so they pass on that fear. One of the things I'd love to see is that we really ramp up our STEM education for educators. So we're talking about rapidly increasing the ability of the teachers training in colleges to churn out enough math teachers, enough science teachers, enough physics teachers, enough chemistry teachers, so that we have an abundance. So when invariably some of them leave and go on to sell insurance, which always happens in the Caribbean, we can still have a good top performing teacher still in the marketplace. It also means that we have to definitely move towards more of the problem-based learning. And one way to do that, if we're not able to do it quickly through the school system, is to really move towards really ensuring that our student clubs, be the physics club or the aeronautical club, or we're thinking about starting a space club in 4 universities in the region, for example. I'm involved in that project right now. Why? Because we want to get kids thinking about how space science and technology will drive change. So one of the things I've noticed here in the US is that some of the high schools, some of the states have moved towards using online laboratories. And I'm not sure if those have yet reached the region, but I'd love to see us borrow, since we may not be able to afford to build from scratch, borrow some of those tools that are available here in the United States to teach physics and certain principles online using gamification to get us moving at a faster pace. So those are some of the things I'd like to see us move very rapidly towards. It doesn't require a lot. I think within 2 years, we can do a transformative change with what's already available in the marketplace here in the United States, borrowing and tweaking as we go to suit our region.
Thank you, Dr. Nelson. Those are some very good points. Dr. Jackson, could you react to that in your experience? I know that you have some experience in the education system as well. How can we prepare Caribbean young people to transition with this energy shift?
Thank you very much, Sophia. So, one of the things about, transformation is for persons to be more aware of their ecosystem. And that is something that we have to teach our students, to be more aware as they go from different places with their parents, their teachers. They need to be more aware of the ecosystem. But to Dr. Nelson's point about that virtual space, and that's something that the Secret with CARICOM is now working on with CXC, is to establish a virtual lab for students to have that level of interaction through that STEM program. We need to know what we want. The students need to know what they want as well. I came across when I became a member of the Society of Automotive Engineers, how we design a car is not, it's not the car manufacturers that just design it without an interactive or consultation. They actually speak to people and they create these devices and these technologies within the car to facilitate the driver, to facilitate the passenger. And why I'm saying this is that, you know, students in the shift paying attention to the ecosystem need to make a decision on what is it that they want for themselves, with the guidance of their parents, with the guidance of their teachers, of course. But what that would help them to do is solve problems based on what they want. You know, if there's something that is not operating in a way that they want, they can be trained to design solutions for those issues that they may come across. So for example, you spoke about what the future looks like. When they walk into the space of a room, they may want the lights to come on without turning on the switch with their fingers. So they must have some ability to know how to do that. They might be in the house doing something and they know that certain devices are on to save or conserve on energy. And with that interaction and that intelligence, they can make systems start reacting in a particular way because of the intelligence and because of what they call it, artificial intelligence. So we have to define what it is that we want, and then we can solve those problems as we traverse. Thanks.
And you know, let me just jump in here. I think that's the whole point. We need a problem-solving mindset, an engineering mindset. I'm sure things have changed, but back in my day, going to St. Louis High School in Jamaica, I remember being sent to the principal office, daring to challenge the idea that we should not be learning about heather on the Scottish moors, and complain that I didn't even know the plants in the schoolyard. So let's start right there. Have we progressed in this term of ecosystem? In other words, if we have a sixth form and the sixth form is studying physics, one would assume that the sixth formers have built a solar cell something in their schoolyard and it's powering up something, it's powering and charging their phones or a room or something. So they're actually solving a problem the school might have at the same time while learning technology. And so I would like to see our high schools really make the leap of design thinking into, once you talk about CAPE needs to start definitely, if not before, introducing design thinking. The latest you can start is CAPE. You should have to start earlier, but if you have to wait, then definitely CAPE needs to be about design thinking.
Yes, definitely. I think, Dr. Nelson, you started answering my next question. And I think as a young person, I have experienced that even within being trained as an engineer, wanting to do more practical work, and within our educational system, seeing that was not provided. So really my next question was, what are the key areas you see that we need to organize, reorganize within our educational systems to really support sustainable development, to support climate compatible development? So if you feel to expand on that point, Dr. Nelson, and then we can get Dr. Jackson's thoughts on this.
Yes. I think we need to untie the young people's hands, untie their hands, give them freedom to be creative. I mean, challenge them. For example, we know that so many areas of the Caribbean are still unserved or underserved in terms of energy, or the light bill so high. I mean, I still have a home in Jamaica, and I remember thinking, oh my God, who can pay this light bill? If I was living here, I couldn't afford to pay this light bill. And so we have to find ways of getting our kids to think about problems that the society faces, and not grumbling and saying, oh, the government's supposed to fix this, the government's supposed to fix that, but coming up with solutions. Let the tinkerers free. There are many tinkerers who are doing things. And then what happens oftentimes, and you can correct me, Dr. Jackson, you have a tinkerer at a university or college, but there's no ecosystem to take that innovation to the market. Because again, our let's say our wealth capital owning class in the region, most of them are merchants, so they don't have a clue about engineering or anything, right? So they grew up as merchants, their parents were merchants, they just know about buying and selling, and I think that irritates me. How do we educate this merchant class to come out of their comfort zone of buying and selling forever used cars from Tokyo, right? And getting into allowing us to design, maybe a solar powered electric battery that can at least run our golf carts, if nothing else. So at least the tourists that are coming in are not using more power. And why are we not doing more research around tidal energy when we have so much sea around us. So much things we can be thinking about. Those countries that have high hills and get wind, etc. These kids should be practicing doing, new designs and windmills. I see this beautiful mill in your picture, for example. Let the tinkerers free is the best thing I can say. Let the tinkerers free.
Do I jump in, Sophia?
Yes, go ahead, Dr. Jackson.
Yeah, so to Dr. Nelson's point, she's so right. And I think the reggae icon said it. Emancipate yourself from mental slavery. We need to unlock that potential. We have so many problems. I've always tell students, don't try to create a problem. You just need to identify the problem and solve the problem. You don't need to create a problem to write a PhD. You don't need to create a problem to write a thesis in your master's. There's so many problems we can solve. And I think there's a lack of engagement with industry, with our student bodies. There's a lack of engagement. There's a lack of engagement between the universities and industry. And interestingly, the universities is who taught them to go into industry, but there's always this gap between what the theory teaches and how it is applied. And I think there was an instance when the University of the West Indies had established this co-op. And there are instances where I think the schools had some field trips where they could create an environment for industry to react to connect with these students. And I think that level of engagement needs to improve. And I think it needs to give them the ability to see the environment or see the ecosystem in a different way for them to have a better ability to provide the solutions to the issues. And with that, they can apply their knowledge to solve problems and become more productive. But I think the level of engagement is too low, and I think we have to increase that level of engagement between industry and the education system. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Dr. Jackson. I think that's really important, that link between, education, the universities, and the industry. And again, I think you started answering my next question. So in light of the work that CXC has been doing to green different subjects, I think this is a step in the right direction. And a lot of what you guys have said, I think, it leans towards that in terms of building the capacity of our young people to contribute directly to the sustainable energy transition. So my next question was really, what are some of the practical things, and I think you started touching on this, but what are some of the practical things we can do to get young people to participate in the sustainable energy transition now? Not when they graduate, but as they are, even secondary, primary school level, how can we empower them to co-create a regenerative economy by leveraging some of the lessons that we have learned, not just from climate change, but also, for example, the COVID-19 pandemic. So yes, can you share your thoughts with us on this?
I would say that I would love to see I would like to say every school, right? Every school should have a solar project. It's not brain surgery. Every school should have a water harvesting project. Every school should have a micro farm of some kind. Why? Because we have to eat, we have to have water, and we have to energy, right? I don't think we should be coming out of, so let's say we don't start at the high school. Let's say we start at the primary school. Let's say we start at the high schools. Because at the high school is when students decide, am I going to really follow my dream to be an engineer? Notice I'm pushing the engineering, right? Follow my dream to be an engineer, or I'm an engineer, so I have to push that, right? So, or am I going to become, an accountant, lawyer, or whatever? But I think that it's kind of sad when you hear about schools that are underserved, not having this, not having that. And then you have students who are in TechVac training, not having the practical experience. It would seem to me, Dr. Jackson, it's fairly simple to say, okay, we have all of these kids who are going to become mechanical engineers or whatever, or civil engineers, going to UTech or UE or wherever. And we have all of these schools and hospitals, etc., in the region, which don't have these support. One would think it's fairly easy to have them do even some basic engineering systems practice modules in all these buildings, these high schools, etc., etc. So I don't think it requires a lot of like brain surgery and neurosurgery kind of thinking. I just think it requires the willingness of the powers that be to change from this idea that school is just to sit in a desk and to learn and to study and to cram for an exam, and change that mindset to recognize school must be a school for the 21st century, school for smart futures, school to educate people who will now have to live with artificial intelligence, which thinks faster than them, means that the only gift you can give humans is the capacity to think, because AI is now being taught to think. So we don't want to have our AI think more than we think. We have to therefore teach humans to think. We need to have data literacy, media literacy, futures literacy, science literacy, just to survive, just to not be dumb in the future. Kids need that. And so the best way to do that is to unleash your potential through giving them problems to solve. We need to have in every, I would say from what is that, grade 10 or grade 9? By grade 9 at least, you should start be giving these kids problem-solving exercises to do as part of their learning process. And I think you would see a sea change in the way we evolve as nations in the Caribbean region. And one last thing, one of my pet peeves right now is water management and waste management. I would love to unleash some of these young people think about waste management. Is there a way that we can treat our waste in the region as opposed to throwing it on the ground, right? Or which ends up in the sea? How can we unleash, 100,000 young minds to think about what kind of waste-free environment they want to live in when they get to the age of 30, only 10, 15 years from now?
Dr. Nelson, I would say ditto, 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 ditto. The level of engagement is, I believe, is weak, and our level of awareness. I mean, we are interacting with the environment in so many ways. When we go to school, we sit on a chair. Why is it that when we sit, we can sit in a particular position with the forces that are acting on it? We can teach that. When you walk outside, as I said, there's a garden. You can feed the school by just setting up a simple agricultural component. You say you have a high electricity bill. You can actually help the students through the alma maters or otherwise to say, listen, let us put in a solar system, do water harvest. And all those things are part of our environment. The same environment that they go home to see, they go to school, they're interacting with the same environment. And I believe that thinking is going to be helped by the engagement by the parents, engagement by the students, and engagement by the industry. Because I believe these students have potential to be unlocked. And we need to emancipate that slavery mentality from their heads because they have great potential. I was saying to my nephew recently, why are you playing the game? Why are you not the person who's writing the program for the game? You need to understand what's happening in behind the scene. You don't want to be the user, you want to be the innovator, the producer. You can't always be the user. And I think he has now seen the light, so I'm hoping for the best for him. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Dr. Nelson. Thank you very much, Dr. Jackson. I think that was very lively, spirited conversation. One thing came to mind when you guys were speaking, kind of in spaces with young people, this has been an issue. So, you're a young person now, working age, you're within the world of work, and people have difficulty with, I guess, as a young person being heard and having your ideas, considered by the older generation who will be the leaders and that sort of thing. What are your thoughts on how can, institutions, governments, etc., how can they push young people forward and allow our contribution to really be heard? So Dr. Nelson, you can go first.
I have mixed feelings about that because I come from an era when we definitely were to be seen and not heard, right? So there's nothing about the assumption that the leaders are going to make room, right? And I hate to say it, and the young people that I come in contact with, I do try to give them space, but I also say to them, you have to take up space. You can't wait for people to give you space. You know, Shirley Chisholm says if you don't make a seat for you at the table, you know, you bring a folding chair. You bring a folding chair and sit down. That's how I was as a teenager, as a young person. If you don't give me space and I say something 3 times and I still don't see it getting done, I'm going to go out and try and do it myself. So do not be discouraged if you are around elders who kind of don't make room for you. I mean, I'm sure Dr. Jackson is like me. He'll make room for you. But if you don't present yourself in a certain way, we're not going to take you seriously either, because a lot of young people think that things happen overnight. They don't have no stick-to-itiveness, no grit. Nothing happens. Nothing's going to be handed to you on a platter. You got to fight. You got to struggle. You have to sleep, toil through dark nights to get from point A to point B. And once I think we see that, we're now willing to be a little bit more open, because we say, man, this person is really serious. They're willing to, you know, go the extra mile. But I can tell you, I've had too much experience of some young people, not all, some young people expecting that you're going to get a seat and to come and pontificate when you haven't proven yourself. Why should we listen to you? Go do something. Go try to do something. You may not succeed. But the fact that you have tried to do something lifts up how people like myself, who is a doer, see you. In my estimation, I tend to like to mentor and support young people who are already doing something, leading something, because I know that my time is not going to waste it.
Agreed. And I think I am of the view that, you know, you're saying exactly what my mother used to tell me back in the day. She said, nobody's going to hand it to you, son. You have to take charge and you have control over your destiny. I think I agree, the room needs to be provided, but you have to demonstrate as a youngster, as a youth, that you want to be a part of this solution. You have to demonstrate your ability to transform. And I believe you will get the room to grow. But you have to want it. You have to really want it. And you know, when you look at the society today, kids are not shy today as I was in my day. They are daring, but I want them to use that edge for transformation. I want them to use that edge for progression. I don't want them to use that edge for destruction, because some of them are using it because, again, as adults, I believe in times, we have failed you. We have failed to provide you with the right support system. We have failed to provide you with the right guidance system. And I'm hoping that you can see the good in some of the things that we are doing, so you can take a more pragmatic approach in the solution that we are trying to put in place for you. But you have to take charge. You have to show up for the game. You have to show up for the game, and when you show up for the game, you'll get a goal. But you have to show up. Thanks.
I'm wondering, and if we haven't time, I'm wondering if Cree itself can't come up with something that we can do as Cree, right? To really begin to change that game, because we know the school system is sometimes strapped by rules and regulations, right? But if they had, like, say, an after-school program, and Cree could say, okay, regionally we're going to do X, right? And then so allow those kids who really have that drive to have a room to actually experiment by creating the conditions. So we're going to have a game, a competition or whatever, and they have to build X, Y, or Z, and they get some training and some exercises and some things are online. And then you give them a 3-week time to actually go and build and multiply. That will give those kids who have that extra wish and that extra oomph the space to experiment, because sometimes the schools really don't have it. And so it might take an outside group like Cree to make that happen. So I hope Dr. Blair and the funders of this program would think about that. You know, can we fund something, if it's a solar car or a solar hospital, something, I don't know what, but you know, let's come up with something that is going to solve a problem the region has, right? And at the same time, give some kids the design chops, some design chops.
Thanks for that. And I think that is excellent. And I think we have to put ourselves where youth can actually apply their skill sets, and we should give them the environment and the platform to do that. And I think with the virtual lab that we are establishing is one mechanism to do that. And we should always explore other mechanisms to get them engaged that can be twinned with the education that they're receiving at their respective schools. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Dr. Jackson. Thank you very much, Dr. Nelson. So we've reached the end of my questions, but I just wanted to open back up to you to give any closing remarks, any closing thoughts that you have before we see if the audience has any questions. So, Dr. Nelson?
Well, my book is called Smart Futures for a Flourishing World, and it's really a very Caribbean book. It's probably the first futures book written from an island perspective. And Nancy shows up in my stories and takes us through a series of scenarios from the year 2030 to the year 3000, right? And I really believe that if we are to succeed as a species, we're going to have, as Dr. Jackson said, just like what I said, we're going to have smart thinking and not just smart systems. We're going to have smart people. And so the idea is to ask people to start, when you think about your smartphone, think about what future you want. And hopefully, my acronym SMART will mean something to some people, but every time you see your phone, just remember, we want you to be part of the transformational shift that's needed to create smart futures so that we can have a flourishing Caribbean, and a flourishing Caribbean can contribute to a flourishing world.
Thank you, Dr. Nelson. Over to you, Dr. Jackson, for your closing remarks.
Yeah, my closing remarks is just, with what Dr. Nelson said, we establish partnerships, we increase engagement with our youth, and we provide them the platform for interaction and for progress, and for them to have the right supporting system to guide their path. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Dr. Jackson. So we are now going to open up to any questions for the audience. So if you have any questions, please feel free to type them in the question and answer box. The button would be on the very right of your screen. So I'm just going to wait a couple minutes to see if we have any questions. Okay, so I'm not seeing anything at the moment. Okay, so again, just want to say thanks very much to Dr. Jackson and Dr. Nelson for your insight. I will now deliver my closing remarks. I would like to express appreciation to the panelists for their valuable contributions to the second episode of the Green Table Talk series, Equipping Caribbean Youth for a Smart Future. My deepest gratitude to all of you who attended and helped to make this event such a success. This program, mainstreaming greening learning components in the educational syllabus of the Caribbean Examination Council, built upon the success achieved from the RITA program that allowed for the integration of some greening learning concepts into the new and existing syllabus of the Council at the CSEC and CAPE levels. The Greening program also provided training to strengthen teaching competencies among teachers in the region. The TAPSET program followed the RITA program and is implemented by the GIZ and made possible through the financial support of the European Union and the German Federal Ministry of Economic Cooperation and Development. The TAPSET program, second strategic components, component 2, information and capacity building, ensures that the individual, collective, and institutional capacity for delivering technical solutions among key players in renewable energy and energy efficiency fields are strengthened. Hence, leading to the contract mainstreaming greening and learning concepts in the educational syllabus of the Caribbean Examination Council with the consultancy group from the University of Guyana. In my capacity as facilitator of this event, I thought it would be appropriate and useful to summarize some of the themes as well as ideas emanated from this webinar. Firstly, I think the webinar has been very effective in meeting its purpose, which is to raise awareness with the Caribbean public on the transition that is required and to enlighten Caribbean citizens about how job roles will evolve to address issues for a sustainable future. Secondly, following on these themes for discussion, there were a number of important and interesting points raised. I really loved the phrase, let the thinkers free, that Dr. Nelson raised. I think it's very important to let young people be creative, be innovative. And Dr. Jackson also raised some very critical points about the integrative way we need to go forward to make learning more practical and to really engage young people in problem solving at all levels. All of these are important for the work of the Caribbean energy transition, and some are perhaps more far-reaching. All of this raises the obvious need for a collective solution towards addressing some of the important issues of the energy transition. Throughout the half-day event, the sustainable education development approaches in the region were discussed by several speakers. They highlighted the opportunities and benefits that the greening of CXC syllabi will mean for Caribbean countries and economies. Before ending my closing remarks, I would like to convey a special thanks to the CXC syllabus review team, University of Guyana syllabus development team, the teachers who participated from across the Caribbean region, who have worked together to realize the inclusion of greening concepts in the syllabus. Finally, my deepest thanks are, of course, reserved for the TAPSET, CARICOM, and SICRI team for their priceless contributions and for running a smooth event. Thank you. So now I will hand back over to the production team to do the final spoken word. Again, thank you very much, Dr. Jackson and Dr. Nelson, for joining us.
Sasa, I give up. I don't know where you're going, but I'm doing what I want. And I don't know what to do, and I can't pass. So, Mr. Sir, make sure and come back fast. Who is you?
Oh, idiom.
Who is you?
I is the baby who grew up next to you.
Wait, how you grew up so fast and so so physically pessimistic?
You trying to say I ugly?
No, I'm trying to say that you're missing some of the basics of an acceptable face.
Idiom. It's because the future is not an acceptable place. Life real hot and real hard.
Yeah, well, I could see the hard part.
It have nothing to laugh at. They never green the curriculum. Now the days ahead is dark art. And I come back from the future to tell you that.
Tell me what, big baby?
Well, essentially, you will dead if you don't have AC. And the more AC they making is the more deader we getting. You see how it have COVID now? Well, it have something worse. People are deading. We make funeral for ourselves by refusing the wedding to green the economy. Agriculture is a fireside tale. We import it until the ocean conceal we.
What you mean conceal we?
Yeah, boy. Sea levels high like hell, boy.
And what happened to Mr. Sir?
Well, he living up in the bush. People thought he was mad when he left the school system and say classes have to be community-based. Because the less people driving, the more of the earth we save. He say we not using technology to change nothing but we TikTok password. So do a TikTok dance when the environment answers our absurds.
And what happened to me?
Well, you did dead from lack of health. I mean lack of common sense. It was comedic, so essentially, we laughed ourselves to death.
Well, yes. But who was the we?
Wasn't just you alone. It have a result if we do not maintain this home, and trust me, you don't want to see it.
Where you going?
Back to the future to find some milk.
And what about me?
Save we. Change our environmental esteem, and the one way to do that is to paint the curriculum green. Anyway, later, I think I have to change my pamper.
I was wondering what was smelling so. Anyway, thanks for coming on the scene. Now it's up to me to change the curriculum green.